It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. It's Feedback Friday. And yes, as the title said, someone asked me about the gingers or black thing. I've refrained from commenting on this because years back, I made, the observation that the same stereotypes, a lot of the same stereotypes that black women get, gingers get too, and I got called racist. So more on that. I want to get to the thing about, man stupid, because that term, as a lot of people said thank you because I don't like the term toxic masculinity. Man stupid sort of landed better, so that's cool. And yes, I am wearing a Galactus shirt. So I like when there can be a conversation and we can talk about this because as people said, one commenter said, I think young men need to learn that they can't get away with things because they see a rich person do it. That's valuable. These guys can't turn a dollar into gold because they never were taught how to struggle to do so. If anything, these rich guys, lose more money than they make. It's not just money either. It's connections, which have more value than dollars. And someone responded, people really understand how easy it is to make money when you already have a ton of it. These guys have the financial equivalent Konami code multiplied exponentially. And that's true, especially on the internet, because if you come from a rich family, your family knows business owners. When your family knows business owners, they can go sponsor my kid's show. So there's this early corporate welfare, and nobody wants to be the first sponsor, but they'll be the third or the fourth, like the minute it's trendy. And, rich people can get sponsors with surprisingly little traffic. And then, they also have the money to throw tens of thousands of dollars at publicists to build up, their status. It's very, very hard to truly be able to do it organically. Now, do some people do it? Yeah, absolutely. I know people who have done it absolutely organically. It can happen, but it's a lot harder. And there, not only is there is it easier, but the tolerance for risk, the attitudes towards money, it's all different. And I say this as someone who did grow up poor. Shout out to Jane Finch. And I had to learn a different attitude towards money being around rich people. Because rich people, they lose money and they're like, they're just like, okay, next. Because they have it. And they've always had it. They've never known what it's like to not know that they can have somewhere to live, right? And that doesn't mean they don't have problems, right? There's a reason Elon doesn't have ketamine to affect his bladder. But it's just, it's different. It is. It's different. And I don't think, in terms of masculinity, that you should need to be rich to matter. There has to be a standard that, no, you're a good man, you're successful. That isn't that. That's an impossible. That means, it's called the 1% for a reason. That means 99% of people are going to feel like failures. That's not right. Right. And, so yeah, I've been thinking about a train of thought for the Manly Monday content. And it's about, protecting men and what that means. And I'm still percolating it. And but I do think there's something about, we talk to men about respecting women's boundaries, but we don't teach men to respect their own boundaries. So how does that compute? And I find that with a lot of these social issues that are sort of intractable, if you take one step back in terms of where you start along the chain of where to intervene, things become a lot clearer. And that's why it's like, okay, maybe with this, all the violence problems and the domestic violence problems and all that stuff, like, because back where I grew up, it was teaching young men, young women too, but, there were specific things targeted at young men to respect themselves. Because you don't know how to respect any other person until you know how to respect yourself. Until you can go, I don't deserve this, so I'm not going to treat any other person like this. Or I don't think people deserve this, so I'm not going to accept that treatment. And by accept that treatment, I don't mean nothing bad ever happens to you. You just fight everybody off. No. I don't mean that. I mean, you're allowed to say that was wrong. That was not okay. And I work with a lot of men who get to that place. Some of them got to that place this week. It was awesome. And it's a real privilege to be there for that, to see where they start. And then to see them go, no, I am good at things, and I do deserve things, and I do have value. And that's where you begin, right? And, that's why I talked about the thing I did on Wednesday. I didn't plan to talk about the gingers are black thing, but I think it's a good accidental tee up that I talked about. Hatred is never kindness. Being against something is never, it is never being for something. And I don't even, understand some of the comments. But when someone, I'm gonna have to read them more carefully, because there are some that are really nuanced. And I appreciate the people who, especially the ones who are Catholic, who came forward and offered support on that video. That was, I know that takes guts. And so that was really cool. And I appreciate that. And I think that if we offered more appreciation that way, the world wouldn't necessarily be the better place, but at least our corner of it can be. And so let's get into the gingers are black. Obviously, it is not a literal statement. It is sort of, gingerphobia is real. I've experienced it. I've talked before about how, I talked in that video about how I started being told I was going to hell at the age of 9 because I had white spotted skin. It's the mark of the beast. And this is a ginger thing, right? Like, that's the difference between bottle redheads and gingers. Like, this shit. Like, I don't tan right now because I've been driving. This arm is more freckled than this arm, right? And all my life, someone has told me freckles are ugly, right? There was a quote attributed to Bill Clinton. I don't know if it's true, but there's 2 types of redheads. Gorgeous fucking redheads and ugly fucking redheads. And you internalize that shit, right? And because, very few people feel gorgeous. So guess where you end up? And I mean, I remember when that South Park episode about Kick a Ginger came out. And I thought it was a brilliant commentary on, violent bigotry using a group of white people. But of course, then kids actually beat up a kid in school And a judge, I don't remember if it was Alberta or Saskatchewan, but some Canadian province was like, oh yeah, these kids did nothing wrong. The TV told them to do it. It's like, it was satire for adults. What the fuck? You know, it's all really messed up. Oh, I haven't done the help support this channel. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/Leanna K. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/Leanna K. And, you know, because I have sort of the dual experience of growing up at Jane and Finch. So, you know, a large plurality of Black people in that neighborhood. It's not the same. It isn't. There's still white privilege being gingers. Now, that being said, there's sort of the academic gatekeepers of Blackness that would be appalled at this idea that a TikToker could go, gingers are Black. But that's the very interesting thing about, you know, Black Twitter, about, you know, TikTok, that you get a very different lens into where people are at. And this is a fairly common sentiment. It's sort of a joke. I mean, especially with me, because I'm right into the culture. No, I'm kidding. And, you know, if anybody's interested in seeing my spice rack, I posted it on the Discord. I have a bit of a problem. My spice rack includes, you know, bear spice, za'atar, Aleppo pepper. I have, you know, ghost pepper hot sauce. Mango habanero hot sauce is delicious, but I have like scorpion pepper hot sauce, ghost pepper hot sauce. It's but I mean, obviously not all gingers are like this. And I think what it meant, and like anybody that tries to make it seem like it was literal, no, it's not literal. Of course not. And that's always been the issue with being a ginger. Because if you dye your hair red and can get a tan, oh, you're beautiful. But me, I mean, God, I spent years doing that stupid fake tan just to kind of pass because, you know, TV studio lights, they don't light for light skin. They don't light for dark skin either. You gotta be that sort of mid-tone beige. And color theory is very different. And these are all minor problems. It's when people accuse you of being angry when you're enthusiastic about something as well, that fiery temper, or the hypersexualization is a real problem. And I was talking earlier this week about how nice it is to be old and ugly and used up and unwanted now, because I don't have to worry about that really disturbing attention that people think is flattering, but is actually pretty scary when people assume you're just some horse slut because redhead. You know, I think Jessica Rabbit was a bit of a, yeah, I'm not bad, I'm just drawn that way, right? I was walking down the Vegas Strip ages ago, and someone yelled out from a car, red on the head means fire in the bed. I was like, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Ugh. Right? And you hear that shit so much. Oh, you're angry. Oh, you have a bad temper. Oh, you're a slut. You're a whore. You're a bitch. And no joke, you hear it so much. The way your blonde and brunette friends do not get because you're hyper visible, and you internalize it. You know, it's like, okay, I'm a bitch. Fine. I'm a whore. I've never made money for sex in my life, but I'm apparently a whore, right? Like, you just, what can you do? You can do nothing about it. You could dye your hair. But then you still got this shit. You still got the freckles, so you can't really hide it. Your eyebrows still come in blonde. These are drawn on. And I admit, one of the things that drives me crazy about Claire Obscure is Mael in the English dub has black eyebrows. Okay, I guess she dyes her hair. But it would be nice in digital media to actually have ginger eyebrows, right? Because how are you out on an expedition? Where's the hair dye? She has no roots. And it's these little things that what's normalized is a bottle redhead. Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. Well, Natasha Romanoff. Yelena's awesome. But, Kirsten Dunst in Spider-Man. We don't get gingers anywhere. And, the race swapping. A lot of you have heard me say, like, when they expect me to be pissed off that they turn gingers from comic books into black characters. Well, Ariel from The Little Mermaid. And I say, they're never going to cast a ginger because we do not fit the beauty myth that will allow us to star in a major tentpole film. So, I'd rather it go to a minority. I lost a friend because he happened to be black and it was a Hollywood thing. And I tried to talk to him about the casting issues that people like me face. And he really got angry at me because, it's nothing like what black women face. No, it's nothing. It's nothing like what black women face. It is something like it. When you're considered not hot enough to be mainstream beautiful, all you can be is sorted into fetish, right? It is the same that way. And it's bittersweet for somebody to sort of half jokingly say gingers are black. Obviously, again, it's not true. But like not literally true. But it's nice for someone to just sort of half jokingly recognize that there are different experiences. And I mean, I'm glowing in this video because I'm wearing a black t-shirt. But it's really frustrating to try to find, the sheer styles that are, unless they make like a really, really light pink in like the bras that are supposed to be invisible under things. No, it's like, it does not look skin tone on me. And I mean, that's a complaint that darker skinned people had for years. I mean, I've been working all day, so I'm like warming over tired, so my face is flushed, right? That's just because no pigment to hide the blood vessels. There are different medical things with gingers. My veins don't run straight. I am resistant to anesthesia and painkillers. And anesthesiologists knew for years that gingers were different somehow that way. We have different pain tolerances. And it's either way, right? We're either hypersensitive to some pain or like super not sensitive. Like I still have a scar on that foot from when I smashed it. No, I won't be weird and show my feet. Should I be weird and show my feet? Should I be weird? I don't know. Let's see. I'm wearing angel socks from Lilo and Stitch. You can't see that. It won't even show up on the camera, but I dropped something on my foot like a month ago, and there's still a scar, right? But we do have these issues, and those are not the worst problems in the world to have. The likelihood to have very sensitive skin. I burn if I look at the sun wrong, right? I was at a makeup training last weekend, and we were doing like the tinted moisturizer, and the woman running the demo was like, does anybody use the fair shade? And I went, yes. And her back was turned. She goes, was that Leanna? And I said, yes, because, you know, my skin tone is vampire. But yeah, it's like the fact that we're treated as much like cartoon characters or a fairy race. You know, one of the things the TikTok hashtag said, and let's give proper credit to the creator who started it, Diara the Root Worker. You know, they talked about the unsolicited hair touching and that kind of stuff, like the invasion of personal space. I had to actually unlearn being that touchy because people did it to me so often. I thought it was normal. I didn't think you were allowed to not like that. And it, you know, it is what it is. Everybody's got their things. And there is, you know, when we talk about representation, Sadie Sink, man, Damian Lewis, right? But the cool thing, like, you know, remember when they voted for the Mass Effect character and it ended up being the redhead? And it's like, okay, that's kind of cool because finally there was a character who wasn't like, you know, a vampire slut, a fairy slut, or, you know, some kind of angry murderer slut. It's always that. Like, I had an ongoing thing where every time there was a hypersexualized redheaded character, it was maligned again, right? And the line back in the 80s is, you know, blondes are dumb, brunettes are, you know, humorless, redheads are sluts. That is a shit card to draw. One, it's not true. But you realize it doesn't matter if it's not true. You have to fight the idea that you're a whore with an anger management problem your entire life. And I've got multiple stalkers that prey on that. I mean, Zoe Quinn went there, and I called her out on it. That she made gingerphobic comments. And I flat out said, if you're honest, you'll issue an apology for what you said, because that was flat out stereotype. That has nothing to do with me. She was the one that called me literally the devil. And the historic association between redheads and witchcraft and, you know, demonology, that's not cool. It's not cool, and it's not harmless. But did she apologize? Take me up on the offer? Did she be the decent person? No. I'm like, okay, you're full of shit. Right? And it's just, the hypervisibility is the other thing that is sort of in common. You know, if you're a black kid in a white neighborhood, you're gonna stick out like a sore thumb, so people are gonna notice you. And if there's a whole group of kids causing trouble, you're the one that's gonna get yelled at. Guess who had the same thing? Yeah, me. Okay, it was the opposite. I was like the ginger kid with black and, you know, brown kids. And let me tell you, I wouldn't give, as rough as it was, I feel so fortunate to have had the multicultural school experience growing up that I had. I wish everybody could have that experience, because you learn about other cultures, right? Now, when I ended up, you know, briefly living in a, you know, culturally Chinese majority neighborhood, there were some, and this is not true of all Chinese people, right? I'm not trying to say they're all like superstitious type, but the particular people there thought I was a dragon in human form. And they let their kids poke sticks through the fence at my dogs. That kind of stuff happens. And because that's lesser known, you can't do anything about it. And this is when you start going, well, I get this for being white and everything's my fault and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, cool. Like I said, everybody's got something. But even though it's not literally true, I do think that stuff like this is better than the really divisive identity politics that kind of infected the dialogue for so long. Like, TikTok may save us, which is so weird because of the whole Chinese influence thing, right? That may be what China's using it for, but TikTok has its own ideas. And if you want, I'm Not Therapy Show on TikTok. There's a lot of stuff about, my atypical cat link. There's a lot of link on my TikTok. I don't run it. I have a social media manager because I don't do video and picture-based social media. That is just a Thunderdome that the only winning move is not to play, as far as I'm concerned. The people who do it, great. I'm just too introverted for it. But I do think that it was a cute hashtag. It was a cute trend. Spoke some truth, not literal, but I do suggest, I do hope that everybody takes things like this, and instead of fighting over whether it's literally true or not, take the time to recognize that every group has stereotypes against them. And, not only do I have red hair, I'm a freaking 32H bra. So I just got the size rechecked. It's still up there. People assume shit. And as much as I have a very thick skin, pale thick skin, it is frustrating. It's hard to constantly have to have these super rigid boundaries, because there were multiple areas of Canadian sci-fi fandom where some guy just thought it would be cool to lie and say he slept with me. Or he coulda, or something like that. But I gave up reporting that shit, because whenever I did, I was making trouble and ruining his life. And in one con, no, I'll go ahead and say it, because I asked for support for this con, KeyCon, back in the day, in Winnipeg. I reported a guy there. I am persona non grata at that fucking con because I am polarizing, okay? And that, it's not that I got no support, and a whole bunch of other women came forward after I made the complaint. But there are some people that just will not believe it and think I'm too polarizing for telling the truth while growing these all on my own and having this, right? What did she expect? She knew what she signed up for. That kind of crap. And the problem is, at the time, that was my job. That was the TV gig I had. It was late night. We interviewed, among other people, adult stars. Why? Because everyone in the world could understand that. Whereas a lot of celebrities didn't transfer internationally. People didn't know who they were outside of North America. And even in Mexico, some people didn't know that. Yes, Mexico is part of America. But, anybody who, and, Latinas get it too. Asian and South Asian people have different stereotypes against them. And those are, we all carry it. We're all used to it. But we don't like it. And we'd really like people to it's one thing to joke. It's another thing to actually assume Because the worst thing is when you're not, you get treated like you're weird. And the whole angry thing, everybody gets angry sometimes. But black women get defined by it. The Republican Party did a number on Michelle Obama. And that's what I got called racist for. Was I said, like, look, I know what it's like to live under that stereotype. Like, me and Michelle Obama, baby. Yeah, racist. How can you compare it? Well, just on that one point. You know? I'm not saying my family was enslaved. Just on that one point. And I stand by that, you know? I really encourage people to think before acting based on stereotypes, and think before you go for that cheap insult that has nothing to do with the core argument. Because, hey, let's face it, you know, those WSCMs, right? The white straight cisgender men, like, it comes back. And it hurts those fellas too, right? Guys are hurt when they're called an incel. You know? They're hurt when they're called names. Everybody hurts a little bit. Some of us are just so used to it that we don't feel it anymore. And, you know, some people understand that that's why I come out and talk about this stuff. But you know, the name calling, the irrelevant name calling, going after people's looks when it's a conversation about politics or human rights or wars. Who the fuck cares what someone's weight or, you know, attractiveness level is, or their age, or anything like that? Like, the appearance should not disallow you from having an opinion. Now, on certain topics, are certain opinions going to be as informed as others? No, right? Muslim people are going to know more about living as a Muslim, right? Black people are going to know more about what it's like to be black. This is really common sense. But in terms of things like, okay, how can we create a standard that works for everyone, where the same rules apply to everyone? Everybody's allowed to have an opinion on that. You don't have to, you know, look like Chris Hemsworth as Thor, because he don't look like that all the time. I think he looks better regularly, but that's just me. But, you know, you shouldn't have to look like that to have an opinion on economic theory. Because, let's face it, most experts on economic theory do not look like movie stars. It's so fucked up, you know? And this impulse some people have to, when you're challenged on an idea or when somebody disagrees with you, to just go mean. That everybody can agree not to do, right? Everybody. Those rules apply to everybody, which is like, all right, I don't use toxic masculinity except in jest or except as a quote, you know? I don't call people incels. Right? And I let people have dissenting views. And I had a really good conversation with somebody yesterday that was about, like, AI. And there's a bill in the US government about making the AI maker not responsible for, like, doctors who use it and something goes wrong. The doctor assumes full liability. And, you know, we started off on opposing sides on that. And he convinced me that, okay, cool. Like, I changed my mind. Those are great conversations. They're great, you know? And that's why it's funny that if you look at the stereotype that my haters have constructed of me, you know, unhinged, enraged, angry, anger problem, right? It's all genderphobic stereotypes. And that's not an accident. It's not. They do that because simple-minded people will believe them because, of course, that's just the way they are, right? That's just the way those angry slut gingers are. We can all draw from that sense of this does not feel fair to be fair to other people. And so I salute TikTok. I'm not good at TikTok. I super appreciate TikTok. My cat is more popular on TikTok than me, and that is totally okay. If you want to go my TikTok, again, not therapy show, there's footage of my cat Link, who loves the 13th Doctor from Doctor Who. There's video coming. We tried him on Broadchurch last night, so you can see what those results are soon. But if you're sticking around here, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/Leanna K. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you like this content. Please like and subscribe to my channel, and have a great weekend.